Over the 15 years of COD Zombies, every map has had one thing, and that's a spawn room. Whether it's a spawn room like Keno De Ton where you can sit in for a while and chill, or something a little bit more tense and compact like Shadows of Evil. The spawn room is the introduction to every map, and I think people overlook the spawn room quite a lot. And that's why in today's video, I'm going to be going over the evolution of the COD Zombies Spawn Room. So let's go back to the start of nacht, untoten. Nacht's spawn room was very small. It only had 5 barriers for the zombies to enter through, and it only had 2 wall weapons. We've got the M1A1 carbine, and we've got the Kar 98K. As I said, this is the first map, so it's very bare, so the spawn room's going to be very bare. All you had was the 2 spawn rooms, the 5 barriers, one being the help door leading to the box location. There was also some debris that you could clear on the stairs as well. 2 viable doors in the spawn room is a theme that we're going to see a lot throughout this video. Most spawn rooms have 2 doors. Normally one with a higher elevation, and normally one with a lower elevation. Now, only skipping one map ahead, it starts to get a little bit crazy. And that's with Vera. As on this map, you get 2 different spawn rooms, sectioned off with a door that could only be opened with power. So if you joined in with a couple of your friends, your team is split in half, which makes the map 10 times way more tense. And the only way your team could actually meet up is by opening up the whole map and actually eventually turning on power. So if you were in a 2-man team and you guys split up, if one was dead, the other one would be by themselves with no way to revive their teammate. This spawn room was really cool and creative. We don't see this idea much in Call of Duty, and it actually really fits the theme as well. The fact that you're in a mental asylum and they're trying to make this map creepy and haunted, and you're alone without your teammate trying to find each other, it makes that map way more tense. It also gives you a sense of urgency to open the map as quick as possible to actually get to your teammate. Skipping on to one of the most well-known spawn rooms, Keno De Ton. There was nothing really special about Keno De Ton or its spawn room, but fans all over seem to love this map. And I feel like if someone told me to picture a spawn room in my head, I would picture the Keno De Ton spawn room. As previously, as I said before, it has the 2 doors, one lower that would lead you out into the outside area, and upstairs that would take you over to the main theater. For wall weapons, we had the Olympia and the M14, both very well-known wall weapons at this point, with huge wars going on which one's better. By the way, it is the M14. Not to mention, on the Black Ops 3 version of Keno De Ton, you can use gobblegums, so you can have things like crate power and fire sale, which really just makes that spawn room way too easy. And to be honest, you can just sit in there for as long as you'd like. Only skipping a few maps forward, we have Call of the Dead. Now, there's nothing too crazy about Call of the Dead. A couple of things that stand out to me. It's the frozen lake that you can't actually spend too much time in, and you actually have to travel through this lake to be able to get quick revive. It's just a little challenge like that. It's not too hard. It's just a little things that have to make you a little bit more of aware of the game. But the biggest thing about this spawn room is the fact that you have a boss zombie following you around the whole time. It gives you a sense of urgency to leave the spawn room, and that's something we're actually going to see slowly start to decline throughout these maps. We have the same thing as usual, the M14 and the Olympia, all still the same. We have 2 barriers as well. As I said, sort of one lower elevation, one sort of higher elevation, the higher being the lighthouse side and the lower side being the boat side. Going a little further ahead, we have the map Moon. Now, this spawn room is rather unique, as it technically has 2 spawn rooms. One in Area 51 that doesn't use rounds. Instead, it has an endless horde of zombies that are running at you. I think the whole aim is that you're meant to actually get to the moon as quick as possible, because it tends to get hard quite quickly. The second spawn room is the actual moon. The one weird thing is, though, is that you have 2 barriers, quick revive, and no wall weapons. This spawn room really changed the game, as it's not like anything that we saw before. I think the whole point is that you're supposed to stay in Area 51 for as long as you possibly can. If you're better at the game, you can actually manage to pack a punch or either get speed cola or juggernog. And bearing in mind, that's all on round 1. Having Area 51 as a spawn room created a really fun challenge in the community called the Area 51 Challenge. As it's not rounds, it's just based on time, and basically the whole aim is to stay in there for as long as possible and just see what time limit you could get to. And nothing has been replicated like this spawn room on Moon. It's something I really loved, but wouldn't love to see too much, as it's not really traditional spawn room, but nonetheless, it's very, very cool. Skipping over to the next game, Black Ops 2 really didn't have many fun or interesting spawn rooms. The only few that come to my mind is Buried, Die Rise, and Origins. Starting with Buried, this spawn room was very weird. You didn't actually have any viable doors in the spawn room. All you had to do was just slide down this hole and you were kind of just in the map. The spawn room was very simple. There really wasn't much room to move around. It was kind of just one square that was cut off halfway through. You really couldn't spend much time in there at all. But the weird thing is you had 3 wall buys in the spawn room. You had the Olympia, the M14. You also had the LSAT, which was really cool about this spawn room is you had 1 time to buy it, as when you were standing on the platform to buy it, it would fall. Just a little thing that just made the game so much more fun. There's nothing to make the game really easy. It just gives you a little challenge within the game, as I'm pretty sure the LSAT was 2,500, so you would have to save up a little bit of points in that spawn room. Skipping on to Die Rise, it's sort of the same thing as Buried, but in this instance you did have 1 door to open, but if you went to take the free route round, you'd go down into the elevator shaft and it would shoot you down. The one thing both these spawn rooms have in common is that once you've left the spawn, it takes quite a while to actually get back. I know the spawn room is a very pointless room, especially in the higher rounds. It's just something a little bit cool. It's like you can't fall back to where you started. Now, lastly, going on to Origins, there's nothing too amazing about it. The only thing is that you had the generator. So technically, you did have power in that spawn room, but the only thing it actually powered in the end was Quick Revive, which has power in every other spawn room anyway. It's not the coolest thing in the world, but it is something different that we normally don't see in spawn rooms. One map that I should probably mention, or very briefly anyway, is Mob of the Dead, as you technically spawn into the game downed, and you actually just have to go and revive yourself. After BO2, the spawn room started to lose its spark. I felt like the spawn room really just started to get really easy. The whole point of the spawn room is to set up and leave as quick as possible. I mean, back in the Black Ops 1 days, all you're thinking is, God, I need to get out of this spawn room before the dog round sets in. But nowadays, especially in Black Ops 3 and Black Ops 4, these spawn rooms really start to get easy. And that's what we're going to take a look at. It's very sad to say this, but BO3 was a big letdown in the spawn room department. Having things like overpowered weapons straight off in the spawn, and obviously a BO3 problem, the addition of the gobblegut machines, especially when you're having them in certain spawns. So let's start with a map like the Eisendrache. I felt like the spawn was quite big and open. That isn't really the big problem. I think the real problem is the two spawn weapons you get in most Black Ops 3 maps, being the RK5 and the Shiva. The Shiva wasn't too big of a problem, but the RK5 was just way too good to be a spawn weapon. I feel like that sort of weapon is a weapon that you kind of have to buy for 1,000 points, like the B23R in Black Ops 2. But not only that makes the spawn room good, there's also a lot of other things. Not to mention the gobblegums, especially in the Eisendrache, there is one straight in the spawn room. So if you have the right gobblegums, you can have all the perks in the game and a pack-a-punch weapon before you even open the door. I know that's more of the game's fault and not the spawn, but it all factors in. I think without these things like the overpowered weapons and the gobblegum machines, these spawns could be really good, but these factors are weighing them down for me. And I know I've said this already like 3 times, but the whole point of a spawn room is to get out as quick as possible, and with all these Black Ops 3 spawn rooms, it's really stopping you. Not to mention in Eisendrache, the tram fuses are a thing, so you are just getting free power-ups constantly. You get things like max ammos, insta-kills, all that sort of stuff. But let's skip over to Gorod Crovey, where they kind of gave us a little bit of redemption for spawn room. We had the dragons that could breathe fire on the spawn. That cuts off a whole section of the spawn, so it's very hard to traverse. It's also a very tight spawn room. You really have to be very strategic where you train or locking them down to not come into the map. You still had the gobblegun machine, and you still had the weapons like the RK5. So the spawn room was still pretty easy, but you still kind of wanted to get out as quick as possible, so it was a step in the right direction. Now let's skip on to probably the easiest spawn room in COD Zombies history, I personally think, and that is Revelations. Not only have you got a free way to exit the map by doing the ritual and going to nacht, untoten, you also have a box location, and pretty much right next to the box location, you have a gobblegun machine. So you can get things like immolation liquidation, and you could just have fire cells and keep spinning that box, so you could have the thunder gun before you even got into the map. I know I'm probably going to get a lot of people in the comment section saying, oh, you're a gobblegum hater, you're a Black Ops 3 hater. Black Ops 3 is my favorite COD Zombies game, and these things aren't too big problems for me, but I am going over the journey of the spawn room, and these things need to be mentioned. But if you thought Black Ops 3 was easy, let's skip over to Black Ops 4. All these spawns are super easy by the fact that you get your special ability. No matter what happens, all you have to do is whip out your special ability and you're fine again. There was some really cool spawn rooms in Black Ops 4 though. You had maps like where it was a big gladiator arena with the fire that can section you off. That was a really cool idea. And you also had maps like Alpha Omega, like once you've left the first half of the spawn, you actually can't get back to it. Just a really cool little feature. But having elixirs made the spawns 10 times easier because only some maps on Black Ops 3 had the machines, but with the elixirs, you have them on you at all time. Now let's skip over to Cold War. So obviously, everyone knows Cold War is easy. The whole game is easy. It's supposed to be like that. But I'm not going to say the spawn rooms are easy because I don't actually see them as spawn rooms. This is going to be very weird to a lot of people, but it works more with the storyline. You're kind of like a SWAT team. You're going around and you're trying to gather up, do the Easter egg, whatever sort of things these characters do. I think it's kind of just supposed to be like you're traversing the map. It's not supposed to be a spawn room where you gain up and get your points. I know it seems very weird to explain. I feel like most people do just open up the map as quickly as possible, and it does work. By far, most Cold War spawns are really pathetic, bland, and generic, don't have any cool features. Actually, off the top of my head, I can't think of any Cold War spawn room feature that's quite fun. But I think with time to come, we're going to see some really great spawn rooms coming along. You've got the new Treyarch launch coming out soon, and that's going to be round-based, so we know we're going to get spawn rooms within that. And fingers crossed they take back a step into the directions to the good old days where you're fearing for your life. If you enjoyed today's video, please consider subscribing. I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.